What's up, YouTube? This is your boy John from the Jersey Shore, and I am back with you today to give you my review of the 2011 film. We need to talk about Kevin. This movie was written by Lynn Ramsey and Rory Stewart Kinnear. It was directed by Lynn Ramsey, starring Tilda Swinton, John C. Reilly, and Ezra Miller. This movie starts off kind of weird. You got Tilda Swinton's character. It almost seems like she's out at like a Burning Man festival or out in a mosh pit. But everywhere you look, there's tomatoes. She's swimming in tomatoes. There's tomato being splashed all over the place. She's being carried around like she's crowd surfing in tomatoes. She's laying on the ground and she's up to her neck in tomatoes. There's just tomatoes everywhere, and you have no idea what in the world this means at this point. The next thing you see is she is giving birth, and then you very quickly thereafter see that this baby is just constantly crying. The baby's constantly crying. She's constantly trying to get this baby to stop crying. They show her walking around with this baby in a stroller and the baby's crying. She picks up the baby and the baby's crying. Every scene you see of this child as an infant, the baby is crying. Except for when John C. Reilly picks him up. He plays the baby's father in this movie.
You just have to rock him a little bit.
That baby is Kevin. Now the film jumps forward a few years, and Kevin is now between 6 years old, 7 years old, somewhere in that range. He's a little boy. And if you thought Kevin was bad when he was a toddler and an infant with all the crying, now this kid is walking and he's talking, and he's even worse. He's constantly giving his mom a bunch of mouth, but he's manipulating her at the same time. The one thing that's absolutely atrocious in this movie, one scene, he is walking around, like I said, he's 6, 7 years old, and he's still pooping his pants. There's one scene where he's having an argument with his mother. He's talking back, as he usually is, and she and him are arguing, and suddenly she smells that he pooped himself. So she picks him up, she puts him on a table, she changes his diaper, but the whole time he's kind of like smiling at her, like mocking her, like he's doing this on purpose because he knows how gross it is. And he knows how much she hates doing this. So that's the reason that he keeps this kid very clearly can go and use a toilet like a normal human being at that age, but he's making the choice not to do that just so that his mother has to go through this hell of changing this kid's diaper. So after she picks him up when she's done changing his diaper, they have a few more words. He gives her a dirty look. He walks about 3 or 4 steps away from her, and you can see that he poops his pants again, that he did it on purpose, almost like he was holding it in so that when she was done, he could do it again, just for no other reason but to just be a little brat to piss her off. Well, it pisses her off, all right. She actually picks him up, and she throws him on the floor. The camera pans over at him, and he broke his arm. Well, she broke his arm by throwing him on the floor. He's not crying at all, but you can tell that there's something turning inside of this kid's head. So they take him to the doctors or to the hospital. They put a cast on him. They set his arm. This kid tells the doctor that it was his own fault, that he was messing around and he fell off the table or fell off the counter, broke his own arm. It was nobody to blame but him. And you can see it in this little brat's eyes that he's doing this and he's saying this and he's holding all that emotion in just so that he can hold that over his mother's head in the future. So a little more time passes, and now she's pregnant again. She's going to have another baby. John C. Reilly, he's happy as could be, but little Kevin does not seem so happy. You don't see her pregnant a whole lot in the movie. It pretty much gives you the impression she's pregnant, and then she's got the baby. So she's laying in the hospital with this newborn baby, and you see Kevin walking up to them in the hospital, and he dips his hand in water and starts to like flick water onto this baby's head. The baby starts to cry. They tell him not to do that, but you immediately get the impression that this kid does not like the fact that there's another life entering this house that could take the attention away from him. So within this little montage, or within the story, I'll put it that way, within the story of Kevin being this little boy, I guess he's around 9 or 10 years old now, his father, John C. Reilly's character, gives him a little toy bow and arrow. And not too long after he gets that toy bow and arrow, the story leaps forward again. His little sister is now probably 6 or 8 years old, the same old age that Kevin was earlier in the film. And Kevin is a teenager. And he's walking around. He's actually got like a really nice bow, like an adult, a real bow at this point. And you can tell that Kevin has been practicing with this bow. He's walking around. He's got it strapped over his shoulder. He's got really nice arrows. They show him out in the yard doing target practice, and he's really, really good at it. And then when the story skips forward again, you see the mother putting an eye patch on the little girl. So they don't show you and they don't specifically tell you, but you definitely get the impression that Kevin is the one responsible for this little girl losing her eye. And they even kind of touch on that a little bit further into the story. He gets his bow ready and gets his arrows ready, and when he's going outside to practice, he asks her if she wants to go out and fetch bows for him. And the mother immediately says no and grabs her and doesn't let her go outside with Kevin. That kind of reinforces that Kevin is definitely the one responsible for that kid losing her eye. And one day, the little girl's, her gerbil winds up missing. She doesn't see him. She swears that she shut the cage, the gerbil cage door. She has no idea how the door could have gotten out, or excuse me, how the door could have gotten open and how the gerbil could have gotten out. They're looking all over the house. They can't find this gerbil. So one day, her and her mother are in the kitchen, and Kevin and his father are out in the yard playing, I can't remember, I think it's called tetherball, the ball on the pole, spinning around the pole, whatever. Kevin's outside in the backyard playing with his father. The mother is doing something in the sink, and she notices that the sink seems to be clogged up. So she turns on the trash compactor, and you hear some pretty gnarly grinding noises coming out of that trash compactor. You see her look out in the backyard, and Kevin is in the backyard staring up at her with an evil, fiendish grin on his face. The next scene, you see her washing her hands in the sink, and her hands are completely full of blood. It's really gross, but you know good and well hell what was in that garbage disposal. And you know who put it there. So after all of the back and forth between Kevin and his mother, and all of the nastiness and all of the discomfort and all of the hate that all of this whole family has had to live through and live with because of this relationship and because of that nasty little boy who has now become a nasty teenager, John C. Reilly and Tilda Swinton's character are now talking about getting a divorce. They're in their master bedroom talking, and Kevin overhears them talking about divorce.
Somebody, it's easy to misunderstand when you hear it out of context.
Why would I not know the context?
And he is visibly shaken up that this is something that's getting ready to take place. That kid ain't happy, and that ain't no good. I really don't want to say anything more about this movie. There is a whole lot to this movie that I really didn't get into in this review. The ending of this movie is just shocking. It's an atrocity. You do find out why she was swimming around in tomatoes earlier. It was when the movie began, it was kind of metaphorical for what she's going through. Another thing about this movie is it skips time. It skips a lot of years flashing forward. You see her thinking about the past. There's a lot of time jumping and time skipping in this movie, and it's really good. It's not hard to follow. I'm just letting you know that happens. Tilda Swinton is the glowing, shining star in this movie. I've only seen her, I think, in only one other movie for sure that I saw her in, which was Suspiria, the remake of Suspiria, which I absolutely hated. But me hating that movie had nothing to do with Tilda Swinton. That movie just sucked. It was terrible, and there was nothing good about that movie. In this movie, she's outstanding. She steals the show. She's the first one you see. She's the last one you see. And she is the one that you see from the beginning to the end of this movie. It's definitely, you're following her story from her point of view, and she does an absolutely fantastic job in this. I read a lot of reviews about this movie. When I heard of it, it's like I mentioned somewhere else that I had never heard of this movie before, but I read the top 10 scariest movies on Amazon or whatever it was, and this movie was on that list, and I'd never heard of it before. So I read up on it a little bit before I watched the movie, and that just seems to be the general consensus, that she is amazing in the movie, and this is actually the best performance of her career. I can't say that because I've only seen 2 movies of hers that I know of, but what I have seen of her, she's very, very good, and she is phenomenal as the mother in this movie. John C. Reilly is also very good in this movie, but he's not in the movie nearly as much as Ezra Miller or Tilda Swinton. He is there. His character definitely serves a purpose, and there is definitely a point in him being there, and the story would not flow along or be carried along as well without him, but he certainly is not a major player in this movie like Ezra Miller and Tilda Swinton. The same goes for the little girl in this movie. She has purpose, and she helps carry the story along, but she just simply is also not a major contributor to this movie. Like, again, same thing as John C. Reilly. She's there for a reason. She helps carry the story along, but that's all those 2 characters are really there for. This movie is about Kevin and his mother, and that's it, really. As for Jasper Newell, who was Kevin when he was a little boy, and Ezra Miller, who was Kevin when he was a teenager, both of those actors carried out this character flawlessly. They were both fantastic. They both made you hate them with everything you had while you were watching this movie, which is exactly what they were supposed to do, which is why this is called We Need to Talk About Kevin. Kevin is a problem, and these 2 kids are so convincing in that role that I'm looking forward to seeing more and more of these 2 simply because of this movie. Prior to this, I never heard of either one of these 2 before, but I am certainly hoping to hear from both of them in the future. So We Need to Talk About Kevin. I absolutely, positively suggest that you watch this movie. It's currently on Amazon. I just watched it last night. Fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it. It's very dark. It's very interesting. It definitely will grab your attention and hold it just so you can see what's going to happen next. And the ending of this movie definitely pays off. So I obviously am not going to be able to recommend highly enough that you watch We Need to Talk About Kevin. And that's it, folks. That is my review of We Need to Talk About Kevin. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you are enjoying my content and you are not already subscribed to my channel, don't forget to click the subscribe button and don't forget to ring that bell. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, have a kick-ass day, and thank you for watching.